Welcome to the Strategy-Led Podcast. I'm really excited to have you here. Our aim with this podcast is to bring to you strategic opportunities that you can use to grow your business. And over the past 6 months, we have been building a plan to systematically go across all areas of digital marketing and provide you with these insights. And then, of course, on the 30th of November last year, OpenAI launched ChatGPT and completely changed the game across all of marketing. And we've changed all our plans now because there really is no bigger opportunity across marketing and lots of other areas of business than learning how to use this technology and making the most out of it. Now, we're going to take one thing for granted and make a point of not coming back to it over and over again. And that is the absolute awe that we have for the power of this tool that we've been given in ChatGPT and more broadly, really AI tools in general. We could probably talk about that forever. There's just so much to say, but we don't have time because things are changing really fast. And we need to stay ahead of that. And we want to bring you along on that journey with us. Now, right now, the number one strategic priority for every marketing team, strategist, performance marketer, is how you can take your marketing to the next level and to levels that you probably never imagined before using this technology. So if you're someone that sees this tool as a threat, or if you're someone that just doesn't think it's, really going to be very important, I would urge you to listen to this episode and our conversations moving forward, because I think you're going to see a whole different opportunity coming out of it. And our approach is, if it's an opportunity, we need to run with it. We need to be ahead of it, and we need to provide that to the businesses that we work with. My name is Ben Fitzpatrick. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Webprofits. I'm joined by Alex Cleanthous, founder of Webprofits and the host of the Growth Manifesto Podcast. I can say right now, Alex was one of the first people across marketing to understand the power of ChatGPT. And he is leading the team at Webprofits who are right now producing groundbreaking work in this space. So there's no one better to talk to right now than Alex. Hey, Alex, how's it going?
Hey, Ben, and thank you for the kind words. I'm definitely very excited and investing heavily into this opportunity. But it's great to have this conversation with you.
Awesome. So I'm going to get started by getting this out of the way right away. Look, Alex, I tried ChatGPT. I put in some questions, got some content out. It wasn't very good. I was kind of underwhelmed. What do you say to that?
And I know this is a bit of a staged question, right? Because this is a comment that we see a lot of times, and
everywhere.
It's especially I've seen with senior marketers. Now, senior marketers, because they have a lot of experience and because they can get results and because they have a certain amount of intuition about actually how marketing performs, they look at ChatGPT as almost like a little fun tool, right? And they'll put something in that's simple and just kind of see the results, right? And then they'll see the results and then they'll assume that, oh yeah, that's kind of cute. That's kind of funny. Oh yeah, that's okay. But it's not very good, right? And what I think the big understanding I've found from this is that it is a way for senior people to augment their capabilities and augment it with artificial intelligence, right? And I think this is the big understanding that experienced people have to go through. I'm sure that there's going to be like an aha moment that people, especially in the marketing space, are going to have. And it's not going to be like in the beginning, right? So here's the part which is super important, right? It is an unbelievably powerful tool if you know how to use it. Here's how not to use the tool. Hey, could you create some ads for me? That wasn't a very good ad, right? The depth that it can actually produce an outcome is more than people actually understand, right? I've been investing in this thing now for at least a month, if not more, right? 6 to 8 weeks. And the depth is significant and it's super exciting, right? And so it's really important to start by understanding first the functionality and the capabilities of this tool, then pass judgment. But if there's one thing I can say to all the marketers out there, this thing is a game changer. If you believe that that's just a funny tool that's kind of okay and that a human could do it better, you're wrong. And you might not think that you're wrong, but in 6 months, I'm sure that you're going to see how wrong that you are, right? And I'm sure that we're going to speak about this across like the next, say, half an hour or so. So yeah, look, all about the sophistication of how the tool is used, right? And there's a lot of different approaches on how that can be done.
So that's a great point to move to, is like, what is the approach that you're taking to this situation? Because one of the things that I think is so difficult about the moment is that really this technology disrupts a lot of different ways, that we work as marketers. And so we could go in pretty much any direction and focus on, integrating it into, whatever area of work that we choose. So how are you deciding, where to put your time and energy in right now?
Part of the challenge with this tool is that it can do so many things. And because it can do so many things, it's easy to get lost in the possibilities. I'm a person who believes that the innovation happens through execution, right? And so you can easily just be like, oh, wow, it could do this, it could do that, it could do that, until you put something out to public, until you ship something that becomes an ad, campaign, an email, and it goes out to the real world.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like real yet. It's not real. It's not something which you're actually starting to use, right? And until you
impact, right?
It doesn't have any impact, and there's no feedback. You need feedback, right? And so the parts which I'm starting to focus on is how does it actually improve the workflows, right? So before it was hard to be someone who created a strategy, who created other campaign copy, all the messaging, all the different parts, who wrote the emails, who created all of the USPs, who turned all these USPs into specific ad copy, who created the Facebook ads and so on. It would take
like 4 or 5 people right there, right?
It would take time and processes and steps to get the final result. With ChatGPT, this can all happen now by a single individual, a person who understands actually how to use all the different parts and who can get all the steps required to launch a campaign completed in 60 minutes, in 2 hours, in half an hour, right? This is the part I'm starting with, right? Is actually increasing the speed to production, right? Like is actually to get the campaigns live faster. Now, the big thing to keep in mind is that this is where experience helps, right? Because if you know what you're looking for, it can help you get there fast. But you have to know what you're looking for, right? Like if you're someone who's just starting out, it's really hard because it sounds like everything sounds pretty good. It sounds like everything could work, but an experienced marketer will say, that's a good ad. That's a good ad. Combination of those, that could be a fantastic ad as well, right?
Yeah.
And so it's actually just improving the workflow and increasing the speed. And that improves efficiencies across the board. It has improvements from a cost perspective, and it has a level of depth that you can just get to in minutes instead of hours, and having to be like in the right kind of headspace as well. So it starts with workflow. It starts by just increasing the speed of stuff actually is going live, right? And I think that's a huge opportunity in terms of a step one.
So you talked a little bit there about how a great marketer can use this tool. Can you dig into that a bit more in terms of like who can get the most out of this to drive a great, marketing campaign or strategy? Anything within the marketing space, like, can the intern that we've just hired take this on? Or you talked about, you need experienced marketers to kind of drive what is good. So like what's the balance and approach that we need to take in that space?
So I think the area that this actually helps with is the thinking and the writing, right? So now you don't need interns to support you to construct any type of content anymore, right? So interns, they could be there just for builds, for campaign builds inside of Google, inside of Meta or so on, right? Mm-hmm. Or they could be doing things that is not part of the written world, right? Anything where the output is written text, that's in ChatGPT now, right? So if I have to do a strategy, if I have to create ad copy, if I want to create a specific, say, for example, email sequence, product copy just for like an e-commerce site, right? Or SEO technical parts, right? Like it's really good with coding, right? It's the best with coding because it is code, right? So like it can solve a lot of issues from code. Like it can actually help you to create code. But look, I'm not focusing on the coding side of things right now because that's not my expertise. I'm focusing on the marketing side. But from a marketing side, it can do all the thinking, it can do all the writing, it can do all the different parts, but you have to know what you're looking for. But if you know what you're looking for, it's really hard to explain a spreadsheet, especially on a podcast, right? But so they call it prompts, right? And so like a prompt That's basically how a person actually interacts with the AI, right? And so the quality of the prompts defines the quality of the outputs. And there's a lot of depth and a lot of innovation happening right now in what are the prompts that produce the best outcomes. And then how do you integrate some of the prompts into something, say, for example, like Google Sheets or Notion through the OpenAI API, right? And so there's but it starts with the prompts. It starts in
the chat, right? Like the prompts that we're talking about here are probably in total, 1,000, 2,000 words that we're putting in to give the tool actually all the context, the information, the background, what we're trying to get out, examples of it, all of that, so that it can give us a really tailored response, as opposed to that, kind of generic version that everybody saw the first time they got into it. So the level of complexity, and I think just the level of innovation that's already happened in 2 months since this is launched is dramatic, and every single month it's just going to accelerate, right? So even the stuff that we're doing right now, we had to talk about this before, right? This is going to be dated content very quickly, because in a month we'll be at the next step of this, and the next step of this, we've got some ideas where it's going, but it's all moving fast, and that's why we're taking such a focused approach on it, because again, we could just be going in any different direction, and if we're going in all directions, we'll just get left behind.
I think there's another part here which I'd like to just quickly mention as well, is that it's really tempting to just have the tool open and just to use it, right? And just have it kind of as an assistant. And that's a good way to start potentially, right? But I think that is a waste of opportunity right now. I think the key to fully appreciating the value ChatGPT is to integrate it as part of your processes, right? Because if it's not a part of a company's way they work, it's not really going to be used at the right standard, right? And there's a lot of innovation in the process, right? Because creating a process that applies across the full company or across an entire department, that is harder because it requires a group of people to think about actually how this can actually create some solid outcomes that can be used and that can be consistently repeated. And so that's how the value will start, right? It's like, oh, wow, cool. So before, we would send some copy off for ideas to the copywriters. Well, now we don't need that anymore. And so now that entire step, which might be a week sometimes because of all of the workloads, that's now shortened, right? So now it's a couple of minutes instead of say 5 days, right? And so, but that kind of has to have a process around it. And I think that's how to think about it, right? Is to think about actually how do I create some processes that can be applied across my department or across my company.
And I think the other part of that is, that ensures that you've got your teams working with it. Because one of the things that we talk about a lot is if we have one person that knows how to do something, we don't know how to do that. It needs to be something that we have, built in across the team, or a team who specifically focus on whatever that workflow might be. And so I think for businesses out there, if you've got just kind of one person that's really innovating, in this space, and everybody else is kind of, continuing on as per usual, that's not a healthy dynamic, because that's not going to build this into your process and your workflows and also into your culture. Because, one of the things that, we've talked about a lot within the company, because, this has been a huge change over a very short amount of time, is there's no going back. This is out. We have this now. We can use it. It's not, it's going to be paid, obviously, but we will pay for it. and we will be using this and versions of it and better versions and more AI tools increasingly through the year and years ahead. And so, that means right now, you need to start to think about how you're going to build it into every aspect of your business. It's going to disrupt all of it. So how are you kind of approaching, the broader, company approach to, we've got the processes that we're building in specifically focused on, areas of work that we can really make a big impact on quickly? And then how are you looking at kind of the company-wide approach and how, everybody engages with it and, and learns about it?
Yeah, I think, this is a conversation I've been having just with the team actually, is like, look, there are some companies out there who are going to be like investing heavily and they're going to get a massive advantage, right? And there's going to be the majority who just look at it and go, that's kind of okay, but I could do it better. And I said that like, it's lucky for them that they're at a company where they don't have a choice about this, right? Because as a company, I mean, this is something that we're investing everything into, right? Because I mean, I've been around now for quite a while, right? So I think I first got on the internet in 1999, right? And I had like some first ad campaigns in the year like 2000 or whatever, right? So this is like a while ago. And I've only seen a few times in history just where there's been a big opportunity like this, right? So the first one was Google Ads. And that was like huge in the beginning. And then there was SEO. That was pretty good as well. Like at the beginning, like it's still good, but it's a lot more competitive these days. Then there was Facebook, and then on TikTok. They were okay, but now it's AI. And AI is more like the smartphone and the internet than it is like social media, right? Like the smartphone changed everything, right? Changed everything. It changed basically how people connected across the world. The internet changed everything significantly as well. But everyone was saying, oh, the internet, that's never going to work. Oh, Facebook, that's not going to be used for business. Oh, it's the same thing with TikTok, right? And it's the same thing now with ChatGPT, right? There's so many people, experienced people, who think it's just okay, right? Now, all the young people, I mean, they're all over it, right? Schools are having to quickly create policies around how should this be accepted or not, right? And there's a lot of stuff happening because all the youth are completely all over it because it's so good for people that have no experience. But for people that have experience, that's the superpower, right? And so across the company now, it's about having experience and it's about changing actually how people work across the company to include AI as part of their process, right? And I think that's the part, right? And so like at Webprofits, it's not optional, right? Now, it's been a month, right? And we're creating the processes. It's not a democracy, right? This is happening. This is happening, right? And I am excited because for the first time, like I have the capabilities, I have the resources, and we're at the very start for the first time ever. And we're at the very start and we're sprinting from day one, right? I was a bit too slow like on kind of TikTok stuff, right? I'm still there now, but I'm still like a little bit too slow. I was a bit too slow on Instagram as well, right? But that was okay because it was about the advertising platform there. But this is something different. This changes things. This changes how people operate. This changes existing business models. This changes basically all the workflows, right? This changes actually how internships are actually created and run, right? This changes so many things. If you invest a day and just go down the rabbit hole, like it will be the best day of your life, right? Because it will change everything. You're like, oh, as soon as you get the aha moment, you realize, okay, this is something, right? Now, the other thing I'd like to say is that there's so much chatter right now on LinkedIn, on TikTok about the software tool, right? And everyone basically has like the top 10 prompts for outreach emails or for email marketing or for sales or for copy, right? That's just step one. It's not just about the prompts. It's about the processes. It's about basically changing how you work. And that's the hard part, but that's how you win.
And so there's a bunch of things I want to dig into a little bit in there, but to take a step back, for those of you listening that don't know Alex well, what you will learn quickly is Alex is one of the biggest believers in the power of speed. And so, I know that this is something that you often struggle with, working with other people, because if you can be ahead in when you deliver something, even if it is only 90% as good as what the other person delivers, you're probably going to win. And so I want you to talk about the value of speed within the context of, ChatGPT and open and AI technology in two ways. One, in terms of using it right now, the opportunity we have right now if we move fast. And then the other being how fast it allows marketers to move and what the impact of that is for, for delivering great marketing.
Speed is everything. I mean, I've been saying this is from the first
day I met
you.
I don't think it has changed in any way from day one till today. And I have no doubt that will never change.
Well, speed wins because it's a speed of learning, right? And this is the biggest part I think that the people have to understand, right? Is that the majority of things that we do are not going to succeed. And if they succeed, they're only going to succeed up to a certain point. But to achieve exceptional, you need to have experience and you need to have a high or a strong ability to put stuff out quickly, to see the results. It still has to work from the first day, but it has to improve quickly, right? And this is the part, right? And so the bigger a campaign becomes, or the larger a company becomes, the more processes that are created because of the size of the organization. And this is why the biggest companies in the world, they move so slow, right? Because there's so many parts across the process, right? But this even happens for smaller companies of 500 staff, who say like 100 staff, right? Like there's still enough processes in there that it slows things down. Like it just slows things down, right? And so what this does is that it removes a lot of the steps like in the production stage, right? Hey, look, so I have like an idea, campaign, I want to launch it. I can do it all myself now in 30 minutes instead of it taking a couple of weeks. Now, on the quality side of things, now this is why experience actually has an impact, right? Because if you don't know what you're doing, it's not going to speed it up, right? Because you might be going, I guess, into directions that are just not, I guess, like effective or powerful, right? But if you know what you're going for, and if you know how to work with the AI, it will get there quick, right? And because I know what I'm going for, and because a lot of the people who work at Webprofits actually like are super experienced, like they know what they're looking for, right? And so it's hard to jump sometimes from creative to copywriting to research to strategy, right? But with this tool, you can just jump between all those very, very fast and have something that is pretty damn good. Now, I'm not going to launch the ads for you. It's not going to create the banners and so on or the videos, right? But it will do all the rest of it, right? And it will get it to that point fast. And that takes time. And so that speeds it up, right? Now for Google search and all these ones, I can just launch an ad campaign now in 30 minutes, right? Because I can do the ads, I can do the keyword research, I can do all the different parts. I can see all of the USPs. And every Google ad is an example of somebody else's Google ad anyway. I mean, it's so short, right? Like there's not that much that's been innovative, right? But it's the same thing for Facebook ads copy. There's a short version. And so there's the short version or the long version or this angle or that angle or the proof angle or the scarcity angle, or there's so many angles. It can just create all these like in a second, right? And so now I've got all these components. And so now I have all the things I need and I can get a campaign strategy and copy examples, significant amount of outputs in a very short amount of time. Now I still have to select the things I'm going to use. And so it's not like the AI can just do it for you, right? But it can get you very, very close.
I think like what you have right there, like there's a great example of immediately something that a lot of, marketers in paid media could see the value of, right? So say you're already running campaigns, right? You're running Facebook ads and they're performing fairly well. You could right now take your top performing ad copy and get it to write 10 versions similar to that copy, pick out the 3 best, pop those into Facebook ads and be split testing those against that copy that you have. That's a 5-minute workflow at most right there. And if you do it right, and this is like the really simple stuff, right? This isn't, but it's like, it shows the power of it. Maybe you wrote that ad copy yourself previously, depends on the type of business you're working at. But a lot of times you're probably giving that to a copywriter to write and then getting it back. And, you've just gone from something that takes a couple of days and maybe 2 hours of work to 5 minutes. And there's 1,000 examples of that, right? And they just all stack up. But again, if you don't have the process for it, you're not going to get the value out of it because it's just going to be ad hoc and, and not systematic.
Yeah, there's something I'd like to mention now just quickly as well. And this is something that we've been kind of, I guess, integrating as part of the process innovations into the ChatGPT is the concept of source data, right? So source data is like the brief, from the client or from you to somebody else, right? Like if you can put together information upfront about the brand, about all the angles, about the competition, about, the potential angles or the behavioral marketing principles and so on, right? Like it will be able to then kind of output something significantly more accurate, right? And the more which you can provide it in terms of source data about the company, about the brand, about the personas and the messages and the hot buttons and the triggers and the USPs and so on, the better the outcome's going to be, right? So part one is the source data, right? And the second part is the prompts, right? Because if you can combine the right source data and the right prompts, that's when you start to get some solid outputs, right? And that's kind of how company can get something that's like, wow, that's pretty damn close. I can take that now. I can just, fix it up a little bit because I know what I'm doing, right? And then I can go bang and it's live.
And what's great about that is that right there is just different language for a great marketing brief, right? Like, we need to do all of what you've described there to build out a really, really good marketing campaign. It'll happen across different areas and with different people. And, we'll have a copywriting brief. There probably will be like a master, document that has key information about the business. And then we go down to the different content we need to create and we're briefing that separately. But it is a brief, right? Like you're basically giving a really strong brief to the tool and telling it, this is what I need back. And the more you can tell it, that background information, and then also exactly what you want back, like how you want it structured, what you want it to focus on, that's where it starts to get better and better. And I would say even right now, we're still at the early stages of getting great content out of this. Like we've seen what it can do and we've been able to build processes to get that. But I think there's so much more the further we get into it.
No, and I think that's a fantastic point as well, because, so make no mistake, the business world is about to shift like in a pretty big way. Yeah. And this is like an arms race right now, right? And I'm not like a developer, so that's not the path I'm going. But from a process perspective and from like an outcome perspective and from a performance perspective, it's a game changer, right? Because it can do the work of 4 people now, but it has to be used the right way, right? And so speed is everything, right? Speed of innovation, speed of understanding is everything. There's so many tools out there now that are integrating with ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
And that's not something I'm really investing much into because they are taking control of the source data. They are taking control in terms of the prompts, right? And I think the power for individual organizations is to create the customized solutions to improve the workflows and the performance. A conversation that we had last week, right? Because there's so many add-ons and the extensions, plugins and so on. Yeah. But they're just made by a couple of guys overseas, right? Like, and the big important part here is really to create something that is built upon organizations that are worth at least $1 billion, right? Because companies like Zapier or Google Apps or Notion or ChatGPT, right? So between those 4 companies, you can create significant improvements across an organization. And it's not dependent on some small little development organization who made some app, right?
Well, I think
that would be a mistake also, because there's so many of these, right? And they might not actually last. And so don't create a process around that, right? And then you have to work with the source.
But not just that, also is what we, one of the big themes here has been you need to be an expert in this to use it the right way. And so if the people who are building these apps are developers, then they may be able to get the technology side of it right, but the actual outputs and getting the, the content and the insights, that we require, it's going to fall short there, right? You're going to end up with something that does really quickly and probably beautifully very generic content.
It's intermediate level. Yeah. Like it's like,
I mean, I guess like, I shouldn't, it's quite powerful, right? Like
I tried Jasper.ai, right?
Yeah.
And Jasper.ai is okay, but it's really made for people who don't really know that much. And it helps them just become like a fraction, like it helps them create stuff That's okay, right? I mean, I've seen it. It's okay.
There's also, there are lots of places where you don't need incredible content, right? There actually are lots of places across, it's not like the forefront of performance marketing, but across business, there's places where actually I just need a good description of something. Like an example I heard the other day was somebody's using this. They run an animal charity, and they're using this to write the descriptions of their dogs that they're trying to get adopted, right? Great use. I mean, like, it's something that you need something engaging, but it doesn't need to be like our best copywriters going into it. And so I think like there are those situations. That's not the space that we work in. And that's why like we need to be focused on the absolute best that we can get out of this. But there's all this other content, across business and life that actually, probably can work with that kind of level.
Your customer service emails, I mean, this is fantastic automation. Like all that areas are fantastic, right? But yeah, like exactly to your point as well. So we're, really just focusing on how to be exceptional with this. And this comes back to the point that we were just speaking about before, is on the performance side. Now, there's a misconception, I believe, in the market that there's a correlation between the time invested and the performance of something, right? And that there's some kind of honor in spending like a lot more hours in something than not, right? And the example I give is if I launch a campaign like in an hour and it takes another company 6 days or 30 hours, let's say, but my campaign actually outperforms their campaign, then what was better? Yeah, like because unfortunately, there's no value in time, but historically it was a requirement for performance, right? Now, with ChatGPT, the right kind of thinking, the right like source data, and the right prompts, I can get there quick. I don't need to put all the hours in, but I know what I'm looking for. Again, it comes back to experience helps a lot because I know what I'm looking for, right?
Yeah.
And that is the part, right? Of course, it still takes some time, but there's no value in that. There's zero value in how long anyone spends on anything anymore. In fact, there is a lot more value in something fast. If the same thing can take somebody like an hour, that takes somebody else 6 hours or 15 hours, the person that can get it done faster is a lot more valuable. This is the thinking. And this is why things are about to shift, right? Because the youth are the first ones that are going to be all over this, right? But the value is in the experience, right? And so if you have experience right now and everyone around you is saying, ha, that's kind of funny, right? Ignore them, invest everything possible into understanding actually how to use it, and you'll see what I'm talking about, right? Like this is something that has never happened before. Maybe the internet, so maybe that was the last evolution like this.
Certainly, I think this is the most powerful tool that has been handed to marketers of my career. And the thing that I love about it is it's just available equally to everyone, right? It's not there's areas of AI in the, programmatic marketing space that like only certain, big media agencies have been able to activate against, or, if you work closely with Google, you can get access to certain things, but like everybody has access. And I think the last thing I would say on the power of it, if you really are questioning how powerful this tool is, just take a step back and think about the fact that the whole marketing world is talking about something that is just text in, text out. That's all it is. There's no sophisticated, there's nothing beautiful about it. It's you give it text and it gives you back text. And that has blown our minds, right?
Yeah.
The fact that, and that is literally how the internet started, right? I don't know if people remember being on like BBS chat boards back in the early 90s, but it was text, right? Like that was the start. And look where we are now. So look, we can talk about this probably for the rest of the day. And we've gotten, I think, about halfway through what I had planned for today, which bodes well for future conversations. But I think what I'd like to do is just kind of end with, some advice from you for, if someone is leading a marketing team, right? So not on the agency side, but they're in-house at a business, they're leading their marketing team. They have, the way that they've worked, to say they've been in their job for a couple of years. So they've built up, a team around the way they really want to drive growth for their business. This has just happened. Now, so much has changed. What would be your recommendation to them on how they should be, what they should do next, basically. Like, how should they say, all right, Alex is right, I'm bought in, here's how they should move forward?
What I would say is that there's not going to be anybody else in the world who will do it for you, because anyone else who could do it is for you, they could just do it just for themselves, right? And so it's really about kind of upskilling yourself, right? And you need to deep dive into it. And I'm saying maybe half a day, potentially like 6 hours, right? And just, have a look on TikTok. I mean, there's heaps on TikTok, or like YouTube, right? And just have a look at all the little kind of hacks, right? And then just start experimenting with them, right? And what a great leader will do these days is they will figure out how to use it and how to support their team, right?
Yeah.
Because their team's going to be busy, right? And they're going to have things on, and to find some more space to put something else and have them actually innovate it, it's not going to be the way that it's going to work. It starts with the leadership, right? And now, if the leadership aren't into it, I hope that is like a very large organization right now, right? Because they're going to be holding on to their success because of their brand and because of their profitability and revenue, right? But for all the smaller businesses out there that, like it makes a difference, like how we perform every single month, it starts with the leader, right? And then, cool, so I'm deep diving in, I'm looking at different things, and now I'm saying, okay, cool, so how can this help across the current workflows? Cool, so where is there time that is slow because of capacity constraints, right? Start there, right? Because it's in a lot of places, right? It's surprising actually how many steps cross process that there are, right? And so have a look at that and see if you can shorten it, right? And the one final thing I'd like to say, just as part of this first conversation, is that they thought that AI was going to disrupt the blue collar world first, right? All of the physical things out there. But what it's actually doing is that is disrupting all of the white collar jobs, right? Because anything that's based on text now will be disrupted significantly, right? Now, it may take a year, it may take a couple of years, because it's really surprising how slow the general population are to start to see the value, but it will happen. And this is why at Webprofits, we are just putting so much into this and pushing stuff out as fast as possible, because we know that this is the time to create significant competitive advantage.
Yes. And I think, first of all, I love that advice, because it starts at the top, right? Like, if the leadership isn't bought in here and also really has used the tool, has understood, at least some of the value it can offer across the organization, and guide that implementation across the team. Without that, it's not gonna take off. And that's not an AI insight. That's a business insight, right? Like, we've worked with tons of businesses, and we see firsthand, when change is successful and when it's not. And I think that goes directly actually to the approach that we're taking at Webprofits, which is, Alex, you've been leading, across the organization. You're running company-wide training sessions with the team directly, you with everyone in the company. But then we've also created this AI working group, which is a team of specialists, across from different areas of everything that we do, with the aim of, actually getting into those processes and delivering processes, across the organization that everybody then can use. Now, what's really exciting is that working group has already been working for a month. So we're, right at the end of January right now. ChatGPT has been out for 2 months. We've had a team of specialists who have already spent a month finding how they can get the most out of this tool and building processes around it. And in another month, we're holding a conference, the CLB Revolution Australia conference, which is all about how e-commerce businesses can grow through a focus on their customers and increasing their customer lifetime value. At that conference, we will be delivering a report from our AI working group on all of the learnings that we've had to date on how you can use ChatGPT and other AI tools to grow e-commerce businesses. And so, we are really going all in on content across every area of marketing that, that we can integrate with to get the word out about the power of this tool, to get people thinking about it the right way, to get them, working with us on this. I mean, we're really excited to find the businesses out there that want to learn how they can use this tool and that want to partner with organizations that are at the forefront of it. And so, that is, you're going to see a lot more of that content coming, across strategy-led podcast. I'm sure across your podcast, Alex, the Growth Manifesto, which honestly, everyone, you should definitely go, follow the Growth Manifesto wherever you listen to your podcasts. You will learn so much about business and marketing there. Alex, thank you so much for this first conversation. It was a blast.
Yeah, I mean, let's book another one since it's only been halfway through your question. So
yep, sounds good. Well, I mean, that goes to to everyone listening. Alex and I will be recording regularly. Our aim is to be recording weekly. Certainly, we want to deliver content from the strategy-led podcast every week. We're also going to be talking with strategists, creatives, and specialists from across Webprofits and beyond about how they're integrating AI into their work. And so, just going back to the start, the aim of this podcast was to deliver insights which can help businesses grow. And we're only going to talk about AI because right now, there's just nothing more powerful out there. It's not to say that, the marketing isn't important, but, we know that content is out there. There's lots of ways to learn about that. When it comes to AI and how to get the most out of it, we're all starting from scratch. And so we're here to help you, get across it and get ahead. Wherever you're listening or watching, please like or follow the Strategy-Led Podcast so you don't miss an episode. We're going to learn a lot, and we're going to have a lot of fun along the way, and change the game in growth marketing. So thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks so much. Let's do this.
All right.